Not sure exactly when that's going to happen. But I mean, my sense is as long as it's still working, you can use it. But at some point, I think she's going to ask the IT person to disable that for meetings. So it appears that has not been done this evening, but.
Okay. So we should just make a decision here to either include it or not include it, because we end up reading a lot of comments if we do include it. So I think we should just not include it from the beginning.
And just encourage people to raise their hand and
Right. Yep.
and speak to whatever their concerns are. Okay.
Exactly.
And particularly because this meeting is designed for public input, so people should be prepared to speak up and voice their opinions, I would think. So,
Sam, as far as recording, considering it's a public forum, do we have to note as a scribe everything that people say and who they are as part of the meeting minutes? Okay.
yeah, interesting question. Meeting minutes, the basic requirement for meeting minutes are very narrow, if you will, in terms of you got to record who was present and what votes are taken, who voted for what, et cetera. And town clerk encourages people to be more expansive in terms of recording what happened so someone can get a reasonable feel for the meeting after the fact. So I would say there's flexibility there in the sense that, you know, if you at least capture that certain person, you know, Mary Jones said, opined that she thinks that hours ought to be between, you know, 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. or whatever, those basic kind of facts. I think that should be more than sufficient to capture the spirit of the meeting. And then with the recorded version, one can always go back and actually look at the whole thing. And in fact, I don't know if folks are aware, but in the YouTube recordings, there's actually a captions function there. And then you can actually download the captions after the fact. And so you get a verbatim report of who said what during the meeting. It's not 100% accurate, but you can certainly tell who said what. It doesn't tell you who said those things. But so a very good record of what was said at the meeting exists through that function as well. So it would seem to me, at least, that I'm not speaking for the town clerk, but a reasonable effort at capturing who said what, I would think is sufficient for that.
Okay. All right. Seeing that everyone's here at 7:34, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And of course, first on this meeting agenda is the select a scribe.
We need to
Does
take
anybody-
attendance first, right?
Pardon me?
We need attendance first for the meeting, right?
Yeah, okay. I guess I'll do it. Lisa,
Here.
Tim,
Here.
Cindy,
Here.
Peter Goodney is here. Peter Lapine.
Oh.
Peter, we're not hearing you audio. John,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Peter, one more time.
You have to unmute your phone, Peter. I think you're undoing your computer.
Oh, yeah. Okay, here.
Yep,
There we
we got him.
You.
You're here, Peter?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have, seeing that everybody's here, 7:35 now, I'm gonna call the meeting to start. Do we have a scribe? Who hasn't done it yet?
I haven't done it yet.
You feel good about it?
Why not?
All right, it is you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you
Welcome.
very much. Did everybody get a chance to look at the meeting minutes that were submitted online?
I did not.
We can, if you haven't, no big deal. We can do it at the next meeting. They're one, two, it's about, 2 solid pages.
I I'd like to make a motion to move it to next meeting.
Okay, I'll second that. Let's do a roll call on that. Lisa, what do you think?
That's fine.
Okay, Tim, you second it, so you, I
Yeah,
think you can do
aye.
it. Cindy?
Aye.
Peter, I say we move it. Peter Lapine?
Aye.
John
Aye.
and Lee.
Aye.
Move to next. What I'm gonna do is, at the last meeting, just a reminder, Lee had we talked about how we were gonna open the meeting. And Lee had a nice rendition of how we thought we should greet everybody. So while I read the charge, Lee, if you could just gather what you remember from thoughts from last time, then I'm gonna have you greet the group. Because I think what you had a nice layout that we all seem to like.
Uh-oh. You put me on
Did
the
I put you on the
don't-
spot? I didn't give you a lot of time, but,
I don't remember what I said. Let me see if I find my notes from the last time.
okay, well,
Yeah,
I mean, it was a pretty general, open greeting that, I think I had one that was gonna be a little bit more as to what we've been doing, but I think the group agreed that more of a general one that you said, why don't we say, and blah, blah, you said it, and we all said, okay, that sounds good, and I kind of like to stick with that. That's kind of what we went with, so.
so essentially, all right, essentially I say welcome to the community and thank you for coming. You've already seen who the members of our committee are. Our charge is to try to get your.
I'm gonna
input.
actually read the charge verbatim, so there's no problem to, no question.
For this
Yeah.
meeting, it's for us to get your input as members of our community as to what you would like to see in a noise bylaw. So that the things that we will be asking you questions about and any suggestions which we are throwing out are put forth so that we can elicit some discussion and try to get a feel for what the community would like to have. Because when you look at the bylaws, noise bylaws from other cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth, you find it's all over the place. So we are free to craft it in the way that's best for us here in Southborough, and we need your input. And this is the first of 3 public hearings that we'll have to try to get that input, as well as we'll be doing a survey.
Okay, that's pretty much what I remember, so hopefully everybody's in agreement on that. At this point, at 7:39, I'd like to make a motion that we open up to the public forum. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second,
That is seconded by, I think, Tim. I'm gonna go down the list. Lisa,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
I, Peter Goodney, Peter,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and Lee.
all right,
Okay,
one question
Tim, I don't know what you need to do to open it up.
Just before he opens it, I have a question.
Okay,
I thought we were just taking input from the public and not holding discussion with them. Aren't we just
Okay.
getting input from the public?
Yeah.
If we start discussions, we'll be here till 5 o'clock in the morning.
well, let's see what we have. If we only have 2 or 3 people and we have room for I'm gonna keep, believe me, I'm gonna try and keep it as short as we can. I know I do hear you when, we have those time constraints, and I don't want to go too late either. We do have the option of tomorrow as well. So let's see what we got. We're going to be all ears for the public, and then if we want to digest some of it, if we have enough time, we can. If not, we'll do it at a future meeting. But I do hear you, Peter.
Okay, yeah, if we start discussion with a public audience, it'll just be endless, I'm afraid.
Yeah, fortunately, I think we're going to have to try and see how long-winded some of the people are going to be, how many they're going to be. Are we going to have to keep a time? Say, look, you have 2 minutes, or I don't know really what to expect at this point. So I mean, if we only have 2 or 3 people and they want to talk for 10 minutes each. I guess that's fine, 30 minutes, but
We
if we
currently have,
50 people and they want to, we're gonna have to obviously tone it. And I think when people hear maybe the person in front of them, they're not gonna want to just repeat, I'm gonna say, I think there's gonna be a lot of, whatever he said, plus something, or, hopefully that's the way it's gonna go.
Or if we wanted to set a, for the next X number of hours, we're taking input from the public. Because if there's no time limit,
Yeah,
then there is no time limit, and people figure, well, I can call in at 10 o'clock and tell them what I think, and
well, the sooner we get going, the sooner we'll get going. We can, you can raise your hand, Peter, at any point if you think we should end comment. We can, we'll talk about it at that point. But I think we should open it up. Tim, how are we doing for?
so we have 12 attendees. I'm going to read through all the names right now, just so we know who's in the audience. There's Patrick Stanton, Debbie DeMoria, Diana Bell, Jennifer Cunningham, Karen Muggerage. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Catherine McKee, Chief Paulus, Marcy Jones, Ryan Donovan, Sam Stivers, Stephen Levine, and T. Lit. So we have one hand raised right now. I'll go to that person. If you could state your name and your address.
Well, before we do that, I want to read the charge so everybody knows, what the story is here. So this is right from the Selectmen, the Noise Bylaw Ad Hoc Committee. To collect previous versions of the noise bylaws prepared for Southborough's town meetings, review of the noise bylaw experience of other towns, particularly with respect to measurement of noise levels and flexibility of homeowners and commercial landscapers to maintain properties. Conduct a minimum of 3 public forums for community, and they have in parentheses, residences and businesses input. Clearly define the purpose and enforcement that addresses current issues. Consideration and evaluation of other approaches to selected aspects of the draft bylaw, and provide a report describing the pros and cons of these other approaches and the reasons that these alternatives were not recommended. And provide periodic progress reports as may be requested by the Board of Selectmen. So that's those are our charge and our direction, and that's why we're going to have a public forum. I would hope that everybody has taken some time to look at our minutes. We've done quite a lot of work. We've put in a lot of hours so far, and we can hopefully be guided by some of the input that's given. Lee, could you do your introduction for the for the folks?
To repeat what I said before, sure.
Yes, I don't know that they were they in the meeting at that point, Tim? I don't think they were they?
Everybody's kind of been along for the ride, so they heard it once, but if we want to try it one more time, I'm sure it won't hurt.
Well, I'll be really brief this time, just so I won't bore people. So you heard our charge, and our goal tonight is to get input from you as to what you would like to see in a Southborough noise bylaw. We have examples of a bunch of other ones and have had various suggestions as to what we might want to put into it. And now we'd like to hear your opinions as to what you think actually belongs in it. Because if it doesn't suit the needs of the town, then it's not worth even proposing.
Okay. Tim, I think it's we can take the first person.
Okay, so if you guys would like to speak, just raise your hand. So when just say your name and your address.
Hello, can you hear me good?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Patrick Stanton. I am at 24 Main Street. Thank you for taking my feedback. I would like the committee just to kind of consider homeowners who have to work on their own homes after work, and perhaps extend some sort of time frame for like 9 or 10 p.m. at night when it comes to noise bylaw. Just because if I have to come home from work and mow my lawn, I don't necessarily want to have to tiptoe and around. I would also like the committee to consider how St. Mark's will be affected. I currently live across the street from the old fire station. Earlier this year, St. Mark's hosted a, I think it was a a dance or something like that for the students, and they hired a professional DJ. It was pretty loud. I understand the need to have fun, but it went till I think 12 in the morning, and my house was shaking. So I just want the committee to consider how a noise bylaw would affect a big entity like St. Mark's, but also consider homeowners who might have to do work in their home or have to hire contractors that may be outside quote unquote normal work hours. So I think that's it. But yeah, thanks for taking my feedback.
Okay, thank you, Patrick.
Right, so we have nobody else with their hand currently raised. Got one more person here.
So I would just say that, for, everybody who's in the audience, that they should all participate in the survey because it will ask a whole bunch more questions that, getting your full input will be really helpful.
I'd also like to say that in our meeting minutes, we've articulated several areas that we should take into account. Many of which, well, two of them, obviously, that Patrick just mentioned, we have talked about.
Okay, so
Any other-
Debbie DeMaria is now.
Okay, Debbie?
Hi there. Yep, this is Debbie DeMuria. I'm 58 Flag Road. I'm a member of the ZBA, but I'm speaking as a citizen. I wanted to just refer to a document that I sent to the committee about maybe a month or so ago. And it was with a copy of the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards noise template. And first, I just want to acknowledge if you received it, if anybody had a chance to look at it, because I wanted to mention a few things in it.
We did see that.
Okay, so I've actually shared this with the Board of Health, and we've Heather Ackler, and we've talked about it a bit. This is the Mass Association of Health Boards puts out this model template for towns and communities to use as simply that as a starting point. Hundreds of communities actually use this template, but there's a lot of sort of blank spaces, so you can modify it in any which way you want. So it's difficult to know what they all say. For example, I've actually looked for that kind of information, but I think it's a little bit difficult to find. But I do think it's a good starting place because it covers a lot of different bases. One of the things that it talks about really is that excessive noise is recognized by public health experts as a hazard, both physically and mentally, and talks about that it can cause a number of ailments, including emotional stress, fatigue, high blood pressure, and hearing loss. And in fact, the public health director, Heather Ackler, joined one of our a zoning board meeting actually when Ken's Foods was presenting, and has written to the board about basically what excessive noise does, and she had presented some literature in her write-up. It was a letter signed by the board. So I just wanted to mention, that one of the things about this noise template is it has a lot of good definitions. They're standard definitions, so it doesn't all have to be kind of reinventing the wheel and that kind of thing. What I found really interesting was the definition of nighttime hours, and the definition as in this noise template is between 6:00 p.m. and 7 a.m. On weekdays, and all day Saturday and Sunday. This is considered nighttime hours, 6 p.m. to 7 a.m., Saturday and Sunday, and observed holidays. Southborough may not exactly adopt that, but on the other end of this scale, without any sort of a noise bylaw, we have boards and committees that will allow landscapers and developers to, and even Ken's Foods, for example, can, originally, before they receive their 24/7 operations permit, they're allowed to make noise till 11:30 at night. So I would suggest 11:30 at night is really too late for people who have families. And the idea behind the noise template is that everybody in town, whether they have, whether they live on Main Street or whether they live near Route 9, everybody has a right to enjoy their property, to enjoy their yard, maybe eat outside, play with their children. So I think it's a balance, right? And I know that the committee is going to be considering that. The other thing I wanted to mention was the template also talks about I guess the change in decibels between daytime and nighttime. And in the daytime, Mass DEP considers a noise decibel change of pure tone of 10 decibels. Anything over 10 is considered excessive. But Mass Boards of Health considers a delta of 5 decibels in the evening as excessive. And there's a lot of literature to support that now. A 10 decibel delta at night when families are trying to sleep and that kind of thing is just really considered excessive. So I hope we can include some sort of measurement like that. And then there's just one other I think one other thing I wanted to mention. I'm not sure whether you're thinking about a one-size-fits-all for all of Southborough, or if it's going to be by zoning district. And I would suggest if you're going to do something by zoning district, that we think about the properties that are on mixed, their parcels are in 2 different, mixed zoning. So just to use my own house as an example, I'm at 58 Flag Road, and the very end of my property is actually a little corner of it is industrial. And so, but that doesn't mean I can set up a plant in my yard because I also live in residential A. So the ask would be that if a property falls into 2 different zoning districts, that the the zoning district, the bylaw for that district that gets followed would be the most conservative. And so I just wanted to, bring that to your attention, and that's kind of like my ask. And I think that's it for me. And I appreciate you listening to me tonight.
Okay, Debbie, thank you. I did read through that whole template. There was nothing that I saw that was of news. We had already kind of talked about a lot of that stuff in that list that we had going and things we may or may not want to consider. Maybe not exactly, but there was nothing new that I thought we needed to add to the list based on that. But thank you very much, and certainly will you take all you say into consideration.
Thanks very much.
So next person looks like Karen. Karen, I'll let you pronounce your last name so I don't mispronounce it.
Hello, everyone. This is Karen Muggerage. It's really pretty straightforward, but it messes everybody up. I'm at 15 Parmenter Road. This noise bylaw is actually something that I've been interested in for quite some time. To preface, I'm an RN. I've been a member of the National and Massachusetts Public Health Association for probably 15 years or a little bit over. So Debbie stole a lot of my thunder in emphasizing the public health impacts that noise has and the impact that it has on quality of life. So I took a couple of notes, and the things, and I have read all of your minutes. I would just like to add, I did not see links to the documents that have been referenced and submitted to you. So I don't know if that's something that I just missed or that could be put up, but I think that's part of what's included in the minutes. So the obvious things that I think need to be included are times of day, duration of noise, which is something that I haven't really heard or seen addressed. And I'll give you an example. And then obviously levels of noise. And I understand that there's a difference of opinion on whether or not that should be an actual measurement or more of a subjective feeling. And I probably would lean towards not having the actual decibels, which would give more freedom to those that are enforcing whatever bylaw gets adopted, if it does. So a couple of the things that again, for duration, what I wanted to emphasize was an example that happens here in our neighborhood. There's a cul-de-sac behind us of, I believe it's 7 houses. They have landscapers, and we have, it's not really a landscaper, it's someone that does our lawn, but just so that you know, they do use a leaf blower, so I'm not totally against that. But the landscapers that operate on the other houses, they will have 5 leaf blowers, individuals using leaf blowers at the same time, going back and forth across a lawn. And there is about 4 homes that use the same landscaper. So spring, fall, even intermittently during the summer, there is continuous leaf blowing noise. And because there's 5 people, more or less, there's no let up when they let go of the throttle. There's no, it's just a continuous noise. So I'm not quite sure how that should be addressed, because people obviously have the right and the need to have their land and property landscaped. But if that's somehow something that you can give some thought to, I know literally 4 days in the spring, I think it was last year, that happened, and it really does have a negative effect. So that was one thing. I would venture to say that if anyone is looking at it, is doing something that's noisy enough to be restricted by a bylaw at 9 or 10 at night, then you may be one of the reasons why others are looking to adopt a noise bylaw. So I don't know, because in your meeting minutes, there was reference to a spreadsheet, and I didn't see that. And I know there at one point was talk about looking at surrounding towns. So I don't think you need to be limited to surrounding towns, but Marlborough does have what I thought was a very comprehensive, enforceable bylaw that I would recommend that you look at. I also, as I mentioned at the beginning, was involved, have been interested in this for a good number of years. When those houses were being built behind us that now, have the landscapers, we were dealing with construction that had, because of the economic times when they were doing the work, they got 2 full extensions from the planning board. So we essentially, for probably 4 years, had continuous construction noise. So I share that because I'm coming from a number of different angles. When you do look at timing, I think it's important, because the construction vehicles were right next to our bedroom, essentially. If the start time was at 7 a.m., they're idling and starting their engines at 6:30. And that's something that I think could be defined. And it just, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Referencing being involved for a number of years, I did see and thought that it also was a good one, the noise bylaw that was presented by Chief Paulus. I'm assuming that you.
Karen, we just lost.
Karen,
We can't
I
hear
think you
you.
just hit your mute.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
We lost you at Chief Paulus.
So what I was saying is I had seen his proposal and noise bylaw that I also thought was very good. It was comprehensive, allowed for interpretation, you know, based on circumstances, which I think is important. You know, we're in a small town and people have parties in the summer, and if things go a little bit late and, you know, someone feels the need to call someone to enforce the bylaw or bring up concerns about noise, then I think it would be reasonable to have someone go speak to the offending party. And my guess is 99% of the time, things are going to be resolved amenably. Two things only that Debbie had mentioned, I think, having, and that actually were in maybe the chief's bylaw, is different restrictions, I guess, different guidelines for residents, residential homeowners, and for contractors. So that I think is reasonable, and I lost the other one.
Okay, Karen,
Awesome.
but thank
Go
you
ahead.
for your comments.
Yep.
A lot of that we have looked at. We'll see if we can get our spreadsheet shared. We did look at surrounding towns, so we wouldn't be making any conflicts or, you know, advantageous conditions for our neighbors. And also, we've looked at other towns that are similar to Southborough, like our universe, so to speak. So we did have but we didn't look at the entire state, but we did look at quite a few, and we listed as best we could a summary of those. So see if we can get that out. You can examine it, and we appreciate your input.
Peter, am I muted?
You are not now.
So just a quick question. Could you help me understand why Southborough's bylaws would have any relevance to surrounding towns?
Well, for instance, let's just say that we set some hours that people could work in. We didn't want to attract noise if we had different hours, let's say they were earlier or later from another town. You follow me?
I do. I'm not sure that it's relevant, but I thank you for the explanation.
Well, say if Westboro, you couldn't work until 7, but you could say there was another town that had a later start time, like you couldn't work in Westboro till 9, and we had ours at 8. So we're going to attract all the landscapers that may, you know, that have customers in Westboro. They're going to do the Southborough customers first. You follow me?
I do, yes, but
So we wanted to make sure we were online, you know, a little bit with, we weren't setting ourselves up.
Yeah, I would just say, I think it's important for Southborough to propose what is right for Southborough. And I certainly recognize the reason or acknowledge that you're taking that into consideration. The other thing that I did just remember is, obviously you interpret the charge as it has been given to you, but I see this as the goal is to bring a palatable noise bylaw to the voters so that they get to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, not to put objections in the way as far as, you know, we need the right to do this, we need the right to do that. If the decision has been made that we should consider a noise bylaw, by all means, there needs to be guidelines, but it should be as a guideline, not giving full rein to contractors or homeowners.
Yep. I think we have if you know anybody on the committee, I think we have a good balance of all aspects of what a bylaw should be. I think it's a great group. Okay, next.
Cindy has her hand up before we go to the next person. I don't think we have another hand at the
Oh,
moment.
I didn't see that. Sorry, Cindy. Go ahead.
That's okay. I just want to comment at the very beginning. I think before we went live, we talked about use of the chat, in that anything that's in the chat can't be acknowledged because of open meeting. So can we just I believe that's what we said. And
Yeah.
if that's the case, can we just remind folks that if they want to give us input, they must raise their hand and talk to us so it can be recorded.
Yep. Thank you,
Okay.
Cindy.
Sure
Great.
thing.
So right now we have nobody else with their hand raised. Oh, here we go. Bringing Catherine over.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you for hosting the public forum. I'm looking forward to seeing how things turn out. I wanted to reinforce the good balance of perspectives. I've watched a few of your meetings and I really appreciate the discussion. I think it's really productive. My comments are pretty simple. It's just that I would hope that as you're thinking about developing the bylaw and you're thinking about enforcement, that maybe you consider in encouraging direct communication with a neighbor before, for example, authorities are called if there is a problem. So before, you know, I know some people may feel like that's uncomfortable, but I think it's important that we not over prescribe and that we're not over restrictive and that we encourage open dialogue with our neighbors, because sometimes, you know, with construction, and I think working from home has really brought it to the head for me. Like I have heard more lawn noise and any of the other construction and all sorts of things of pools going in than I ever want to know about. Had to close my windows to conduct meetings and all sorts of things. And I know those are anomalies, but I can really empathize with people that are at home more often and hear these noises on a day-to-day basis of how loud it actually is to live in a community. And that's the other thing is, we live in a suburban community and there is going to be noise no matter what we do. And so I would encourage the committee, and I hope, and I feel pretty confident that you'll come out with a pretty balanced bylaw, but that some noise can't be prevented. You know, I just want us to make sure that some things we can't address. And so I hope that you strive to strike that balance where you recognize there are going to be one-time events. There's going to be graduation parties. There's going to be celebrations. There's going to be construction. My neighbor might put in a pool and that's going to only happen once. So I hope that the bylaw that goes into place is effective for all people, and, you know, especially those that do a lot of the work on their own house and such. I'm one of those that might need to mow my grass between 8 and 9 on a Saturday night or something. And so I appreciate that flexibility. But I also respect people who do want to kind of live in a quiet environment. But, you know, there's only so much we can achieve, I guess, is where I'm going with that. So I appreciate everyone's work and just wanted to put that forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another?
Peter has his hand up and we don't currently have anybody in the
No,
audience.
sorry. Peter, sorry, I didn't see your hand. Go ahead, Peter.
Hey, I wanted to comment on the deal directly with the source of the noise or the person making it. I have heard over a few decades recommendation from law enforcement not to speak with the person directly, that if there's an issue, to call the police. They encourage citizens not to deal directly with somebody else if you have an issue. I know somebody on the committee here recounted an incident where their neighbor came over and asked them to lower the noise. Law enforcement discourages that. And I believe the reason for that is because they don't want to see something escalate and then be called in after an escalation has occurred. They would rather act as the mediator early. And one is not, you know, a person is not obligated to go to the neighbor and discuss something. It's very tricky to do and not cause hard feelings. Sometimes it's better left to the professionals.
I would think, I mean, everybody knows how well they get along with their neighbor. If it's an adversarial thing, you know, obviously you're not going to do it. I mean,
it can be a friendly
I don't know
thing,
that we have to put that in the bylaw. I mean, I think that's more of a, you know, how you live your life type thing.
Yeah,
But
it can
generally,
be.
if you call the police, it's already gotten to the point where you need a bylaw to give them, something to work off of, but.
Well, it can be an amicable relationship until
Yeah.
you go over and speak with them about some problem, and then suddenly everything's changed because you've spoken to them, so.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think-
Do we have, John has his hand up.
Sorry, just Cindy had mentioned about the chat function and so forth. So I know that we got some comments from Jennifer. If she's willing to state those comments, then it would be part of the meeting notes. Otherwise, I can't add them to our meeting notes.
So Jennifer has her hand up. So since she has the comments, let's go to her first.
Go ahead, Jennifer. You're on mute. There you
Hi,
go.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. So I'm on Parkerville Road and I've had a couple of discussions with Pete, not a lot. How do I get more information relative to the specific towns that you're looking at and their bylaws and their ordinances? And I gather you're going to be using them as a tool to construct what you're going to propose. And are there specific towns that you're looking at?
So we do have a working document, and I'll have to look and see on how we can share that. I think we did try to put somehow, we reference it in our minutes. So
Okay.
it does exist, and it should be shared. We just have to figure out how to do that. I don't know exactly how to do that, but
It should have been posted by the town clerk with our meeting minutes. We did
Yeah.
include all that with the minutes. So
Okay.
it'll be available from a previous meeting. We can definitely make sure you can get that.
So when people are talking about noise, are they honing in on specifics, or what type of noise are they talking about or concerned about?
we have a list. We had a list going on, and I swore I wouldn't reference the list, but when we have everything from roosters to garbage trucks to parties to all kinds of noises.
Okay.
If I can,
And not just noises, but exemptions to noises, and there's a ton of stuff. My thought was to just get as many options as we could gather and then filter through and see which ones were, maybe covered in other areas and ones we wanted to focus on. So that is part of the list that I referred to, that, I just didn't want to take up a lot of time and not have enough time for public comment. So trying to keep our comments to a minimum as well.
Sure. I just think that I'm in such support of a noise bylaw in our little town. I love Southborough. I think it's a very unique town. And you can dismiss my comments there. I was just, my frustration again is I think that the element here that has come into play is that, again, we are all working from our homes, or a majority of us are now working from our homes, or a hybrid model. And even when I wasn't working from, I'm very cognizant of the noise around me. And for the most part, I've been here 20 years and it has changed. Every town does. And I find that it's very interesting when I am in my home and I live on the water, it's very beautiful. And I stop and I think, what am I hearing around me? And I remember at the beginning of COVID when the whole world got quiet and we didn't hear a lot. And I thought, my God, this is so special outside. And I just remembered that. And I think my whole, I know we need our landscapers. We want our perfect lawns and our perfect yards. I've tried to do my best to limit it to once every 2 weeks, and then I will mow my own. I do not blow. I do not use heavy duty machine. But I do and I love my landscapers, I do. But my whole gripe with this noise around us, and a majority of it is in our neighborhoods, is coming from the landscaping industry. And I want to work with them. I would like us, to draft something that is reasonable But I think the level of noise and the frequency of noise is are the two main things that I'm thinking about right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Lisa, I see you have your hand up.
I just wanted to reiterate, we had said earlier in the meeting that we are pulling together a survey. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that that will be coming. So you'll have the opportunity to address some of the things specifically about what you're suggesting tonight around types of noises, hours, any time restrictions, et cetera. We're trying to get a sense of, what you feel is important to you. So that will be coming at some point, hopefully in the next week or two. So keep your eye out for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Do we have anybody else?
Yeah, we have 3 more people. Let's go to Diana Bell next.
Diana, I have you next. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I'm Diana Bell. I live at 24 Main Street, also like my husband who spoke earlier. Kind of going off of what Catherine was saying, I find myself like if I know that there's going to be some kind of loud noise happening around, I'm much like if I know in advance, I'm not nearly as upset about it. And I don't know if there's any way in a bylaw to like, especially when it comes to the schools or the other large companies we have, if they know, if they have planned hours where it's going to be pretty loud, if they could put up a notice or something. I'm not sure if that's actually capable in a bylaw, but that was just something like, I don't know if that would be helpful for other people, if that would be possible.
That's interesting. We can certainly look into that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Diana, are you thinking like maybe a notice to the abutters that maybe they're having a celebration? I don't know if there must be a permitting, I'm sorry, I don't know. There must be a permitting process in town, maybe. I don't know if anyone has any ideas on that, but if they need to get a permit to have a DJ until midnight, maybe.
I don't think they had a permit.
Yeah, I don't know what the process is there, and probably not because we don't have a noise bylaw.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
So,
but I know, like, if I knew in advance that the kids were having like an after prom party and I knew what time it was going, I would be much less like annoyed by it.
Right.
So if they could just like post a notice to the neighbors, or even I'm not really that familiar with Ken's and all the work that's happening there, but I don't know if they could post a notice to the neighborhoods nearby. Like, I don't know.
that's a great point. So thanks, Diana.
I can attest from experience in law enforcement that the parties, when they invite everybody in the neighborhood, the one person they don't invite is always the one that calls. So, but yeah, I don't know if we could put that in, but we can certainly talk about it. But thank you for your comment.
We have Debbie DeMoria.
Debbie,
Hi,
yeah, we
there.
can hear you.
Hi there. Hi again. I'm wondering if the noise bylaw that you're thinking is going to deal with any long-term industrial noise. I mean, a lot of what we're talking about is landscaper or noise from leaf blowers or this sort of thing. But my question right now is on chronic long-term industrial noise, and whether committee has thought about anything to do about that.
Well, we'll take that into consideration. I'm trying to kind of hold the comments, but we can certainly take that under advisement and we'll add it to our list and see what we can do.
Okay, and just one other comment. I happened to be traveling down in Newport this summer, and I saw a sign that said "No Jake breaks" or "This is a quiet community." And I've done a lot of reading about that since to find out if that is, I guess it's a little bit controversial. If it's on a town, you can put up a sign on a town road. You may not be able to put up a sign on a highway. But many towns are asking to have signs put up on highways about Jake breaks. And Jake breaks are necessary, I guess. But I think for those of us who live near maybe 495 or others who live near, I don't live near 495, but I live near Route 9. But we're finding that they're becoming louder, I think, if you use it more frequent. And I believe that they're supposed to be used for safety. So they might be necessary, but there are towns that also put up signs along their roads that say, you know, you're entering a quiet community. And I think it's just shaping behavior, right? If somebody is driving a truck and they don't need to check their brakes or do whatever they do with these Jake brakes, maybe they won't if they see that sign. So I just wanted to ask the committee if they would consider industrial noise and sort of trucking noise as well as part of the project that you're working on.
Okay, thank you. We did have that on the list. I do have a little bit of experience in that. I'll hold off on my comments, but there's quiet ones and there's not quiet ones, put it that way. They should be dealt with accordingly. But
I wanted to
go ahead,
ask
Lee.
I wanted to ask Debbie if there's any sort of like specific industrial neighborhoods, because I'm not familiar with who might be the noise makers that she could be referring to.
Let's put your hand on, Lee.
Hi, it's Debbie. In my particular case, we're hearing trucks at Ken's Foods, there was a neighbor on Flag Road that did call the police, and there was truck idling. So I don't mean to say that they can't conduct their business, because that's not what this is about, but it's about trucks on the property that are idling. And there might be other businesses as well. So that's what I had in mind, but it brings up another point about what if, for example, there's a business that, the air conditioner on their roof is making noise. Who do you call? Are we going to send police chief down there? And, will our bylaw cover that kind of noise? I have heard of other cases like that. These HVAC systems and stuff can be also noisy. So I'm specifically thinking about, truck idling, which of course is, not lawful under Mass General Law, but there could be other industrial noises like HVAC stuff.
Okay, thank you. Peter, you have your hand up?
Yes, I sure do. So regarding Jake brakes, they are not necessary. It's a feature that enables a truck
Peter,
operator.
I thought we weren't going to have a lot of comment. We were trying to keep it as short as we could, actually based on your request. So yeah, that would be something that I would welcome at a meeting, that we could, when we get to the Jake brake subject, I'm all ears. But at tonight, we're supposed to be listening to the public. I don't mean to cut you off, but
well, you're cutting me off.
Trying to accommodate you for the duration of the meeting.
Tim said there were 3 people remaining, and 2 of them have spoken, or 2 of them have spoken. So we're pretty close to the end of our public commenters, I believe.
Okay.
As far as HVAC noise, a school behind my house had a problem with their HVAC. I think it was 3 years ago. Sounded like a gunshot. And I reported it to the police. The sounds would go off at night at various times. It was during like deer hunting season, and they'd send officers out and nobody could find anything. I would take my son out to wait for the school bus. We heard it in the morning. I guess it was more than 3 years ago. Anyway, it was maybe it was 5 or 6 years ago. This went on for about a month before it was finally figured out what it was. And it was eventually an officer was in the parking lot of the school, and he determined the sound came from the school. And it turned out it was the HVAC equipment on the roof was defective. It was gas, and what was happening was the gas was being emitted and it wasn't igniting when it was supposed to, and the gas accumulated, and then when it ignited, it exploded, and that was the source of the noise.
Okay.
But like Debbie said, who do you call? To me, it sounded like firecrackers or a gunshot. I had people from the police department telling me it was some sort of weather phenomenon with the ground freezing and thawing. And when it thaws, it makes a big loud noise as the soil expands. And somebody suggested it was aircraft, but it wasn't aircraft. It wasn't aircraft. So that's an example of the HVAC noise.
Okay, thank you.
So we have 4 hands up right now.
Oh, now you have 4.
3 people have already gone. So I'm going to start with the one that hasn't gone. And if there's anything that's a duplication, maybe we can refrain from necessarily duplicating it again, unless it's an important topic. So I'm going to bring Stephen over first. So Stephen, name and address, please.
Yes, Steve Levine, 9 Valley Road.
Steve, we can't hear you.
You can't or you can?
We can hear you.
Okay. I guess I want to add a comment about industrial noise. This is an issue. This has been an issue along Valley Road for 35 years, where we get now industrial noise from the Sanofi plant in Framingham, which obviously is not going to be covered by your bylaw. Along Route 30, we have a series of trucking companies that operate all night long. And one of the disturbing issues with that operation is the constant backup alarms on the trucks. When they're loading the trucks, you just constantly hear this. It's not that much of an issue in the winter, but in the summer it becomes, I mean, you have to keep your windows closed because all night long, it goes on continuously. Now, obviously they have to run their business, but that is an issue that I think needs to be dealt with because we had, several years ago, we had a refrigerated plant that operated in that area, and they would run the reefers all night long. And we got into an issue with the town about that, but ironically, there was no bylaw, so there was nothing they could do about it. So I'm very interested in this one. The other issue that I'd like to kind of second is the issue of the leaf blowers during the summer. And now summer is extending into late November, early December because of the leaf blowing, and it's constant. It's constant, and the thing that if it's between 9 and 6 during the weekdays, okay, I'm retired. I live and work at home, so I'm here, and I've become very sensitive to it. But during the week, you can deal with it because it's something that people need to earn a living. What bothers me is when it extends from 7 a.m. on a Sunday, or 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, even on a weeknight. That irritates me. And I've had words with landscapers, and they say, "Well, we got to work." Well, yeah, but I got to live. So those are issues that I think are, in dire need of addressing. I know that the other aspect of the leaf blowers that's obviously outside your ambit is the pollution, especially the gasoline blowers are, from what I gather, a major source of pollution because they're 2-stroke engines and they're very inefficient. And so that you would almost be killing 2 birds with 1 stone if you were able to limit at least their usage in terms of the hours of use. So that's my comment.
Once again, just to reiterate, we are having an online survey that's going to come out. So we'd appreciate it if you fill that out. It's going to have a lot of, I think a lot of what you mentioned on there. So
I look forward to it.
Keep your eyes open for that. I would imagine it's hopefully going to be in the next week. We should have more if we have time at the end of the meeting. We might be able to square that away, but We appreciate your
Okay.
input there as well.
Thank you.
I thought I saw a hand, but I guess that was his hand. Do we have anybody else?
Yep, we have, let's see here. We'll bring over Catherine.
We're almost at an hour.
Hi, thanks again. I'll keep this short. So I wanted just to ask, this is a public forum that's just collecting public feedback, but I was curious if you're going to have a forum where dialogue, open dialogue and discussion is encouraged, maybe limiting the per person time limits to ensure it fits within a reasonable time frame, because I find even tonight these conversations are really productive, and I think having a back and forth is and can be really useful. But I understand you're on a tight timeline, so I'm not exactly sure what your plans are. But if there is an opportunity to include an open dialogue for a public forum, that would be great. I wanted to ask, I think Chief Paulus, you had mentioned, was in the audience, and I was curious about his specific feedback on the topic of communicating with your neighbor. So I think I certainly understand it's difficult to have direct communications with certain people. Maybe it's not a personality style that is what some of us are used to, but I would certainly encourage my neighbors to reach out to me first before calling the police on me. I think it would really help keep relationships in a good manner, but wanting to respect, obviously, that some people might feel really uncomfortable about that. So I'm curious if Chief Paulus would recommend that you call the police first before you reach out to your neighbor. And I thought what Diana had mentioned was brilliant, in that a nice little notice to your neighbors if you're going to have an event that might be louder, say you're expecting construction and stuff, notice to the abutters. I think that's really a wonderful recommendation. So that brings me to, and I'm closing quickly, is, maybe it doesn't go in the bylaw, but a list of recommendations or best practices, how to approach your neighbor if you have concerns about something. And so that maybe you're giving a few phrases or a few strategies on how to approach your neighbor if it's not your thing, to keep it friendly, that kind of thing. Not everyone will take you up on that, but it might be a really good idea to kind of keep things on the friendly, rather than get heated, because it would make me feel uncomfortable if my neighbor called the police on me before saying, "Hey, Catherine, your noise is bugging me. Can you do something about it?" I would certainly appreciate the opportunity, but I recognize that that's not in everyone's wheelhouse, and there are certain circumstances where that might be more difficult. So I'm curious if Chief Paulus were interested in providing some feedback on his recommendation based on his experience. And thank you. And by the way, I'm on Walnut Drive. I don't think I recognized that at first. Thanks.
Chief, do you want to make a brief comment? We're kind of trying to hold comments, but in this particular case, if you have a brief advice.
Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes, yep, we can hear you.
I think something I've tried to get across in the brief times that I've spoke is in giving the officer some discretion in responding to these calls. As you know, nationally, the profession's undergone some scrutiny on maybe when the police should get involved. So that's a discussion that could go on for days, if not months. But that's what we're looking to do. Well, obviously, we'd encourage neighbors to get along and just what it says, be neighborly, and call the police as a last resort. And that's what I want to make sure, no matter what method that we use or we come up, or if we're using noise meters, that neighbor problems or nuisances, it can evoke some emotions. So when the officer does respond, we want to give that officer and his professional experience every bit of an opportunity to exercise their discretion and solve it. And that's what we do with 99% of the noise problems that come through our line right now. And, since I've been in Southborough in 2014. So we would encourage to keep that method. And obviously the noise ordinance, it's needed. I've always said that during my tenure. And it just comes to those situations that can't be resolved. I hope that helps.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have another participant?
We're gonna bring Debbie back.
Debbie, go ahead.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I think I hit the hand up, but I don't have a comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So we have Karen.
Karen.
Hi, Karen. Just
can hear
very
you.
quickly, I would ask the committee to look into having the planning board include in their orders of conditions on predominantly the large projects to include start and end times. And that would give some freedom to consider, if it's a major subdivision going in, stuck in another residential subdivision, it may be a little bit different than a project that's in an industrial zone. So if you could look into that, that would be great. Thank you.
So at this moment, we have no hands raised in the audience. I think that everybody I see here has had a chance to speak. So if anybody hasn't, I say now could be a good final call.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to end public comment.
Okay, I'll second that motion that we end the public forum. I'll take a vote. Lisa,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Peter, myself, aye. Peter Lapine. We lost your audio again, Peter, I think. You're on mute. I'll get back to him. John
Aye.
and Lee. Lee, you're on mute as well.
Okay, sorry. Aye.
Okay. Peter, one more try, Peter. You're on mute. Your phone's on mute. I guess if you want, you could.
It must have timed out and auto muted. Aye.
Okay, aye it is. It's unanimous that we're going to end the public comment. If everybody else is still listening, I want to thank everybody for participating. We're obviously going to take all the input seriously, and we definitely have a tough job to do. What the next thing on the agenda, and I'm going to try and stick to a time frame. I don't want to go too long because I don't think we're that productive when we go real late. A survey update. I guess we handed in the survey that we agreed to last week to Vanessa Hale, and I think there's somebody else she's working with that does these surveys, and there was some questions that were kind of kicked back for a little bit more clarification. It's my understanding that I guess one of them got kicked back to Tim's attention. So if you don't mind, I would like to just maybe talk to that kind of quickly. If we can get that resolved at this meeting, then we can get that survey out as quick as we can. So Tim, are you prepared to talk about that a little bit? I think it was just one question that there was a little bit of, they need some clarification on.
Correct. Let me pull it up here. Give me 1 second.
I mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. I just didn't.
And while he's thinking of that, if everybody could think about whether we need tomorrow's meeting or not, because that's the next agenda. So if they want to be thinking about that, that'll be next. So it could be even quicker. Yeah. Oh, Peter, you got a hand up?
Yeah. So you brought up Vanessa Hale's name. How did that resolve with limiting the survey to registered Southborough voters?
Okay, so I have an update on a bunch of things. Let me start with the one question and I'll answer the rest of those questions too. And I'll pull up the email so that way I can reference it. So. Okay, so you guys should be able to see my screen right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So this isn't really format, I just copied it. So right now, the question we have is, should the day and time restrictions above determine quiet hours alone? We had some discussion about this, might be a little bit confusing. Vanessa and Katie Berry, as they were doing it, both voiced a certain level of confusion. And Vanessa was the one communicating, so I should reiterate that it was Vanessa that voiced the confusion for both of them. So I was thinking about rephrasing the question to this piece here. I hope you guys can see that clear enough. I can make it a little bit bigger.
Yeah, we can see it. I can see it.
Time restrictions for doing related activities, hours outside the defined window would be considered quiet hours, in which loud exterior activity would not be allowed. Should the day and time restrictions alone determine quiet hours?
You use the term quiet hours.
Yeah, the original question had quiet hours, so I was trying to stay in the spirit of what we initially wrote. But
What does that mean? I don't even know what the first question means. Should day and time restrictions determine quiet hours alone? What does that mean?
so when we discussed this at the last meeting, quiet hours would be the hours after the daytime activity was defined. So there was a start and an end time. And then after that became the nighttime hours. So
Why not say nighttime hours instead of quiet hours?
it's a valid point.
Well, they could be during the day, I guess, on a weekend or a holiday or something.
Yeah, I mean, anytime outside of it, I mean, it's getting into the night range, but if it was a 4 o'clock in the afternoon thing, it's still technically 4 p.m.
Guys, remember, we also have holidays, so it can be day and night, so it's.
What is the question?
Which
What is the
question
question trying to get for feedback?
I don't know the number this is. It was right after the day and time block. It was, I believe, the immediately next question after the day and time block. Right after the homeowner section.
I wonder if that's the one where
Peter, this was the one that you omitted originally, and we were asking the one after it.
And I had some paragraph to preface the next section or something.
Yeah, and then we rebroke it back out.
Yeah, that's why I eliminated it, because it was too confusing. Let me look at my notes here.
Cindy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just I think this is the current one, but should the day and time restrictions determine quiet hours alone, that comes after all the questions about the days and times, and just before, in addition to day and time restrictions, should the bylaw include additional restrictions to the intensity of noise, yes or no? So I think it's in the right place where we moved it last time, but I had a problem with this question last time because quiet hours weren't defined any place.
Right.
So I think that the question with the definition of what we're thinking quiet hours are, it will improve the situation.
Yeah.
How about just stating, shall the intensity level or volume of noise be considered in addition to noise day and hour restrictions?
Because we aren't talking about quiet hours. We're talking about about activity hours prior to this.
Yeah.
What is a quiet hour?
How about like low hours with a lesser level of noise? I don't know how you could put it.
Let me pull up another document here. Hold on one second. Let me pull up the document we initially sent. So we have the survey template as well to reference. Just give me one moment.
Yeah, my note says this question is redundant and it's handled by number 5 following. Yeah.
Okay.
Just should the bylaw include restrictions to the intensity of noise levels? That's how we left it in the meeting, right?
No? There was 2 of them. Let me hold on. I'm about to pull up the reference of what we
see.
said.
As someone just noted, quiet hours hasn't been defined, yet it's used in that query. So people don't know what's being talked about. What do you mean quiet hours, right?
That's why I'm saying if we come up with a, like, if we could say, if we've determined what quiet hours are gonna be, when should they be done? Like, I don't know, like.
Well, are there responses to those days and hours establishing quiet hours? Are there responses setting quiet hours? Is that what, I didn't come up with a question, so I don't know what is meant by it.
Let them bring it up, let them bring up the one that we're, that they're having problems with.
Okay, so right now, the order is we have the start and end times with the homeowner and the contractor section. And then below it is this question: should the day and time hours above determine quiet hours alone? So what we were trying to ask here was trying to keep the idea of intensity of noise levels out of it for the moment, and strictly ask if day and time restrictions were a good enough piece. And then we wanted to bring up the noise levels.
It's too vague.
We can define quiet hours here. I think we could simply just say quiet hours would mean, and then we can just ask the question, then should the day and time hours alone determine quiet hours?
Well,
Cindy's got her hand up.
Tim, I think you just had the answer when you said that you were trying to get a feel for if there's just time and hours, is that enough? That's what I think I heard you say.
Why don't we just get, should the day and time restrictions above determine, slide over, and don't say quiet hours, determine the noise.
Is the intent of this question to not present a query about level of sound?
I think so, yeah.
Correct. That was the intention, was to keep this separated and say, if we limit the daytime activity hours, and I'm going to say daytime and generalize that to whatever that's defined as, is that enough?
Right.
Or do we need to have
Okay.
some extra level?
So why not state, so the intent sounds to me to be, shall the limiting.
Should the day and time restrictions above determine
the noise bylaw
parameters alone?
You're effectively saying, shall we use day and time restrictions
only
for the only limits in the noise bylaw? That's what you're really asking.
Right.
Shall the day and hour restrictions input above
day and time, day and time,
provide the entire coverage of the noise bylaw?
Right.
Something to that effect.
Yeah.
That was this comes back to John brought this up at a previous way of looking at this, and it was a good question that we were trying to capture the essence of.
Yeah.
Day and time limits. Your responses should your day and time limit responses define.
But we're not asking them for restrictions. We're asking them for when they should start and end. So we're saying
those are restrictions.
Okay. On the other
Those
ends, I guess.
Those are limits, right?
Yeah, limits.
They're responses. They're not, they're responses.
Responses, yeah.
Yeah, they're responses.
Should your day and time limit responses provide the entire coverage of the noise bylaw?
I don't know if that's.
Or describe.
Either provide or
describe.
Determine.
Define or determine, yeah.
Yeah, determine.
Yeah, okay.
That's what you're really asking.
Determine the.
How about be the only determination? Or no, I don't like that. Never mind.
Determinant.
Oh, no, it says the entire, so that's all kind of only. I like that. I mean, that's what it says in the question. I'm not saying I'm for or against it, but I think that summarizes what we were trying to do in that question, so.
Should your day and time responses
Or the,
enforcement
no, it's not dealing with
determine
enforcement. Boundaries.
boundaries guideline
No, boundaries
Guideline?
might be good.
Boundaries.
or guidelines.
Well, because they're,
I like boundaries better than guidelines.
because guidelines is too vague. They're definite, they're specific hours, so they're harder, so they're more like a boundary.
Guidelines are suggestions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Complete boundaries.
It's too gray.
Okay. That sounds better to me.
Yeah.
Should your day
I can't see the whole thing. Can you put that into the document on the left? Oh, okay. Determine
Oh, can you?
boundaries of the noise.
Should your day and time limit responses above determine the complete boundaries of the noise bylaw?
I think that's still kind of,
Is it,
if you just came upon the question, I'm not sure that that really says. Day and time response.
day and time?
It's not, yeah, it's not, I know what we're trying to ask, and
Should day,
that's not really,
maybe it's just, should day and time limits be the only,
yeah,
the only
factor,
yeah,
yeah,
Of
In
the
the-
noise bylaw addresses.
right,
yeah.
yeah.
Factor or consideration.
Oh, considerations. Yeah, I like that too. Considers, okay. Should day and time limits be the only factor of the noise by law? Consider, oh, that's good.
And
Get
it's
rid of
just yes or
consider.
no.
Plural.
Get rid of considers,
Factor
that's
plural.
duplication.
Only factor of the noise by law.
Still
Oh,
need
should
to
be the-
reference,
Okay, I guess,
still need to reference their responses. Day
yeah,
and time limits. You selected, yeah.
yeah, that's good, that's simple. Correct,
And it should be the only factors plural.
Plural,
I
yeah.
think.
Yeah, it's two. Yeah, day and time.
yeah,
That's, I think that's definitely clearer.
yeah, I do too, I agree.
Yep,
Everybody cool with that?
yep.
Because it ties the previous replies.
Right, it's a little bit more simple, and
Mm-hmm.
it's what we were looking to get the answer on.
Right,
Okay,
it's direct.
so we're good with this. This is the last piece that we need to get right for the survey to be able to be at the publishable state. So to answer the rest of your questions, Peter, let me go back to emails. So I asked the question of how do we limit this to Southborough residents to keep feedback pertinent to landowners / residents? The response I got was, since we do ask if they are a resident, I think you could disregard that response if the answer is no. If we want to post it on Twitter or our website, there's no way to limit the residents exclusively. So we're at a little bit of an honor system with the way that this is, but the question says yes or no, and if they respond one way or the other, then we have that answer. My one more response to this would be, there's people that do business within Southborough that have businesses here. I can think of one in particular, it's a barber shop. I know that they rent the space and they don't own, and they don't live within Southborough. It's one small example, but I mean, they have a certain vested interest in Southborough because all their clientele is here. So I don't know how we handle some of this, but it's something.
They're not a registered voter. They
Well,
don't have a say.
Peter, that's why I read our charge, and our charge says we're supposed to take input from residents and businesses. Now,
Yeah.
ultimately, at the town meeting, it's gonna get voted on by residences, but we're supposed to take in, we're not supposed to really be limiting our input.
I think
If
that's a
somebody-
mistake
if
to
somebody has a
open it up
stake in
to
the
the public.
community of Southborough, we should be listening to them.
I think that's a mistake in the charge.
Well,
Well,
We've got to work.
it
with
may be, but I don't think there's any harm in listening to somebody.
Well, Peter, not to, my personal opinion here. How many people in other towns are gonna have a vested interest in answering our survey about the noise bylaw in Southborough?
really?
A business owner who's doing business here, who doesn't live here.
Well, why don't we just add a question? Are you a non-resident business owner?
No, for the same reason that it's foolish to ask the question, are you a resident of Southborough? Because you can say anything, whether you are or not.
Well,
You could live in Ohio and say, yeah, I'm a
but
resident.
to go
Here's
to
what
the
I
point
think.
that was just made, why is somebody who is not having, who doesn't have anything to do with Southborough, why do they care about Southborough's noise bylaw?
I just answered that.
Well, I
Let's-
mean, I
only-
would think that
doesn't-
a business owner that pays tax, certainly pays a lot of taxes, could at least, even though they can't vote at a town meeting, should at least have to voice whatever they might want to voice at,
No.
our survey. I mean.
No, this is a Southborough noise bylaw. It's for and by registered Southborough voters.
No,
It's not a state. Yeah,
Peter, no.
No.
It's going to get voted on by registered Southborough voters. But that's like saying, well, we don't care what the landscapers do because they're not voters
paying
in
taxes here.
Southborough. I mean, these people are business owners too. They should have some input.
no. They're not voters here. They're not registered. They're not a resident of this town. Then why don't we have them on the committee?
Okay, let's stop here. The charter is
Yeah.
very clear,
Right.
includes businesses. Let's collect the
Right.
data, look at it. Guys, we get to decide the final format. We have two more. There's plenty of opportunity to move this forward. Let's just stop this discussion because it's not moving us forward anywhere. The charter is
Right.
clear.
We
And-
have.
And
the
I don't
question-
think there's any way for us to identify residents, through the process or through emails or anything. I think we just need to get it out there, get the feedback.
Right.
If they say yes or no to the, are you a Southborough resident? We can kind of call out some of the responses, or just separate it out and take a look at it, how it comes out and what they've answered, and just kind of go from there.
I mean, I think that it may be reasonable to ask for a name and an address.
Yeah.
And if and give them the opportunity to, say they want to submit it anonymously, but, we would then potentially discount that to some degree. We'd look at what they said, but, we'd wonder why they were not wanting to share that they lived within Southborough. And they could still pick, somebody could pick the name of one of their customers too, pretend to be somebody else. We have no way of knowing that, but hopefully that won't be the problem. I mean, I think the charge is right, honestly, that we need to get input from all the stakeholders, because it's the voters who are going to get to make the final decision.
Right.
Anyway, but I think getting input from people is good. I mean, that's why we were here tonight.
Right. Any of the problems Peter outlined will get corrected at town meeting.
And sorry, everybody, the survey is just another vehicle to get feedback. The feedback that's highly valuable are the citizens, our neighbors who joined us tonight and provided feedback and examples. That was very valuable. The survey is just another piece of information we're going to put into the pile and analyze it. I am not worried about non-Southborough residents screwing around with the data. That's this, I believe in the honor system.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think the survey is
So-
really important because, we heard many people say there ought to be limits. And about the only limit that I even heard mentioned was 9 or 10 p.m. at night. So giving people an opportunity to be able to fill in the survey so that they can refine it for all the areas is going to be critically important for us to come up with something that we can actually present.
Do you guys want to have a little bit of discussion on these things at all, or how do you want to do it? And do you think we need the meeting tomorrow?
Well, I certainly personally am open to having some discussion right now because I won't be at the meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
I can stay on.
I'd like to discuss.
John, how about you?
Yeah, just let's keep going.
How about,
Tim?
can we limit it to 30 minutes?
Okay. Tim, are
I
you,
also see there's someone, I think there's someone that has their hand raised. I don't know if we need to let them wait until public comment towards the end, but we may want to just remind them.
I was going to actually bring it up. I'm okay with staying on myself, but I would say that I was about to say there is a hand raised. I'd maybe suggest we move public comment up and then finish our discussion. So that way, since tonight, the whole purpose was to get public comment.
Yep. All right. I can't see that there's somebody with the hand up, so.
Okay.
I guess if Brian wants to talk, we'll listen. Brian? We
Brian's
can't hear you,
muted.
Brian. You'd unmute.
Brian,
you,
you need to unmute.
Tim, can you send him a chat or something to say unmute?
I mean,
Oh, no chats.
all I can do is send them the request to unmute, which I've done.
Okay. Maybe he
Maybe
left the
he-
room or something.
Maybe he has his audio off and he can't hear us.
Yeah. Yeah,
Telling him
maybe.
that he's
Okay.
on mute.
Oh, there he is.
How about that?
That's great. Brian,
We
There
can
we
hear you,
go.
Brian.
you get us?
Just squeeze you in, Brian.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I'm Dr. Brian Bentz. Live on 130 Deerfoot Road in Southborough. My wife and family, yeah. Been here for about 10 years. So we're kind of newbies to the area. And in terms of noise ideas, we're not too far off Route 9, Deerfoot Road extended on the south side, not the north side, the south side. And I'm an engineer, physicist, chemist, PhD. And I would say, is there any way the state or the town can put up warnings or signs about trucks noise when they downshift to the diesel noise when they downshift to brake? Because at Crystal Pond Road, not too far from my turnoff, there's a rotary there, and there's a traffic light, and there's all kind of commotion there from Ken's, factory, warehouse, whatever they call it, and a bunch of other companies, 2 other companies right up the road with their big 18-wheelers, coming to do whatever they do. And, they downshift to ease the braking, ease the pain on their brakes. And many places in New England, there's signs posted that don't do that. It makes noise. And it's not good for the engine either, really. So in terms of an impact on noise, because we can hear it, I can hear it, I'm sure all the people on Route 9 there can hear the same noise, and it doesn't need to be.
Brian, I can attest that as a police officer for over 35 years and written over 6,000 tickets, that I've stopped many a tractor trailer truck for that loud noise. There are tractor trailer trucks that have those engine brakes that are much quieter, but some of them evidently they don't maintain them, and they get loud. And I don't know if you're familiar with the center of Westboro, but driving through the center of Westboro, it's pretty flat, but going into that rotary, they back off the gas and that thing kicks in. and there's all kinds of apartments down there, and it's like an echo chamber, and
Exactly.
I can't tell you how many tickets I wrote there, but I hear you. I don't know
Okay.
what we can do about it, but, you know, it might have to be addressed on a state level. And that'd be kind of hard with all the highways that we have, but I certainly coming down that hill by, you know, the Cadillac dealer, I can imagine what the noise is there.
By
with,
Longs,
with those things.
Yeah, I'm not a noise fanatic, but I'm just saying that, I mean, I've traveled a lot around the area, and whatever, many states, and there are places that have posted signs that say diesel trucks, no, you can't do this, you know. And that's just a comment, because I can hear it, you know, up here on Deerfoot Road. And it does happen. And I don't know if maybe it's an emergency on their part, you know, they have to do that. I don't know, but I think it's a noise consideration. That's all.
Certainly. But we have a lot of things to do in a short amount of time. Hopefully we can get them all, but you know, we'll try to do our best, but that's certainly on the list of things that we've talked about, and I'm sure things that we're going to consider.
Yeah.
Peter, I see
thank you.
Thank you. And also don't forget our survey.
I will not forget that. No.
Got to sell the survey. Peter, you have your hand up. We said only 30 minutes, so don't be pressing the time here.
No, okay. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. So this is the second person who's talked about Jake brakes.
Right.
It is not mandatory to use your Jake brake on your truck. I've had several conversations with the state police. They have a truck enforcement division because I've tried to get this addressed by our local law enforcement. I live on Parkerville on the north side. I'm probably a little further from Route 9 than Brian is. However, these trucks with their Jake brakes wake me up at night pretty regularly at all hours of the night. 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, doesn't matter, because they're going up and down Route 9, right? From 495 down or 490 or up to 495. And then there's the hill where Deerfoot is. And then the other side of the hill with Long Cadillac. Similarly, out on 495, it's a hill from the exit off the Pike all the way up to Route
30.
9
They're
here.
going down Route 30, I can imagine.
And then they go down, right, they go down to cross Route 30, and then they go back up again to Route 20, and the same going south. It's endless. The state police say part of the problem is all the new trucks now come through with Jake brakes. There used to be, it was an add-on. Now they're all manufactured with that. But it's a problem that gets worse every year. And it's worse this time of year because all the leaves are down off the trees. So you don't get the leaves to deflect the sound. So that's the end of my comment. I just wanted to touch on the Jake brakes.
Yeah, it would be nice if the state could handle it, because it's obviously going to be difficult for a truck driver, you know, to go through, you know, a different community. It's different rules wherever he goes. That's why they have a uniform speed, you know, laws. So it's not different in every town and so forth. But it'd be nice if the state said, you know, anything inside of, you know, 495, 120, whatever, you know, like a heavy residential area, you can't do that. You know, I don't know, but
yeah, no engine braking.
I don't know that we on the committee could put you know, basically have a sign out on 495 saying that, but
at least Route 9 maybe.
Yeah, I mean, those are all state roads.
117 in Bolton has a sign that says no engine braking.
Yeah. I mean, we could put, I suppose, we used to put signs up all the time in Westboro. They weren't enforceable, but we could put them up.
Yeah.
But sometimes if it works for half the instances,
right? Yep.
You know, we solve half the problem. You know.
If I can change topics again, another question from the survey that was a change from what we discussed. We were asked if we should keep it open until January 3rd. We were originally trying to post it within a couple of days and close on the 27th, so we had feedback timely from that point. So I wanted to ask if we thought we should extend from the 27th to the 3rd, and if that's going to affect our timelines of responses for us to be able to do something with this information. I believe our next meeting wasn't until the new year anyway. So I forget.
Yeah, I don't think going to the 3rd is much of a difference. We still have to figure out where we're gonna have these 2 more public forums too.
Yeah, our next meeting is the 5th. So if we go to the 3rd, then that means that we get the information right before the next meeting, which I think is okay from a timing standpoint. So as long as we feel it's okay, I'll also make that change in my response.
So
Everybody,
Tim,
everybody cool with that?
I have a question.
Yep.
If we get it on the 3rd, will you be able to distribute it to us before our meeting on the 5th?
I mean, so this isn't only in my hands. So all I can say is if I say yes to it, that I could say maybe the 2nd, and then that way the start of business on the 3rd, when people are back from the holidays, they could export the survey and send it to us, because it's going to be whoever, in this case, probably Vanessa, who will have to export the survey for us to get it. So it's once it closes and it goes to us, to then get that information. Once it comes to me, then I can distribute it. So I'd like to say, yes, I can do it, but there's a chain that has to happen first.
Or if we can tell her that we want to get it in advance of our meeting on the 5th, then she knows what our expectations are.
Yeah, I can make that clear.
Lisa, you're familiar with that process. Is that something that you think is doable in your experience?
I think you can turn it around pretty quickly. If she knows that it needs to be closed on the 3rd at a certain time, you should be able to run a report right then and there, and you can send it off immediately. It's usually, it can be a PDF, it could be in an Excel sheet.
Yeah, the hardest thing will be getting the information in some kind of way that we can maybe navigate it. So sometimes getting access to the account allows you to actually look at the data, and you could see percentages and stuff like that. Sometimes reports don't have that level of granularity or that level of control.
Yep.
Open-ended responses may or may not be hard to decipher. So if we have a lot of open-ended responses, it could take up a lot of space. So I'm not sure exactly how it's going to export, but it should be possible. I just hope it exports in such a way that it's convenient and doesn't take us a lot of effort to get through.
So you could ask her to maybe provide it in a couple of different formats. So it could be a PDF, it could be like in an Excel sheet, so that we could take a look at the data and specifically the open-ended questions. So yeah. I have a question too, Tim. Is it possible for her to send out a test link for us, so we can go in and answer the questions and make sure that it's collecting the information correctly and the questions are working correctly?
I'll ask for that, because my one question was, I asked her, how can we stay in the know of how our responses are going to make sure that we're getting people? And she said that she could do a couple exports throughout it, just to kind of give me a check-in and let me know kind of where we are.
Yeah.
So I think a test link is a reasonable request, and then that way we can see how the information comes in and just kind of know before it goes public.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
I think with that test link, the 3 authors of that survey, since you guys have all talked amongst yourselves about it, you should do the link. Make sure all 3 of you look at the link or approval of it all, make sure, you guys drafted it up. So I think you should, look at it and make sure it's what we represent.
Great. I think it could go out to everyone, and if anyone has a chance, maybe we set a deadline.
But then we get into quorum issues and we can't do anything. And that's why I said the 3 people and the 3 authors. You've obviously worked on it. That's why I picked that. But ideally, yeah, we could talk about it at a meeting, but then we're gonna be, there's 2 more weeks down the tubes.
How about blind CC like we do with the minutes?
But we're soliciting comments, so that would be a deliberation. So you can't do that on the internet. Not with more than a quorum. Not with a quorum.
Here's one way to simplify this whole thing. I will be happy to continue to finish owning this, get the test link sent out. And then if anybody has any comments, they can send it directly to me. And everybody can then get the link and reply to it, because you're not really giving your opinion. Please don't give your opinion. Just write lorem ipsum into the comment box. And then that way it's just, we can see that you put a comment in and how it shows up. But the purpose isn't to give your opinion yet. It's to prove that the thing is functionally doing what it's supposed to do.
I think it should be limited to like, yes, I approve, or no, I don't approve. That it shouldn't be. You can't give people any gray area to twist things around. You know, it's got to be
Well, I
very
think-
cut and dry.
I
Very
think one of the
definitive.
reasons why you need to have it sent out for to be checked is when I've done these surveys or set out ballots for people to do, that inevitably it's not the way I wanted. You know, you can select more than one answer where you should only be able to select one answer, or you can only select one answer when you're supposed to be able to have multiple choices. Or, you know, one part of it works and another doesn't. So I think that's the purpose of sending out a test link, is to be able to validate that the survey is going to do what we want it to do.
I agree.
And you're getting feedback from people not familiar with it. You know, if we haven't been involved with the design of it and we're taking it ourselves for the first time, you know, we might see something that, you know, the public's going to see, but you don't see because you've been playing with it, right?
Okay, so what I'll do, because I feel like this doesn't bend the rules or get us into any gray area, I'll finish working with Vanessa. I'll ask for a test link. I'll get that sent out to everybody on the committee. If you guys have any particular comments about things that aren't working, just send me the feedback directly. And then everybody gets to see the survey before it goes live and have some level of input. If it goes the way that I think we can, I think we could have this live on Monday. So I think if I reply to her tomorrow, she gives me the test link, we get it sent out, get any final feedback before the end of the weekend, ask her to make the changes on Monday and send out the survey Monday evening. That's how I think we can get it, and we can get it done in a fairly quickly format.
Okay, that sounds good.
Sounds good.
We have 12 minutes.
Do we have to vote on changing the end of the survey period from the 27th to the 3rd?
You want to vote on that? Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Make the motion.
I'll make a motion that I get a test link. We extend the date of the survey to 1/2/2021, which is Sunday, to give a full working day. That I will replace that last question with the one that we agreed upon. Should the day and time limits you selected above be the only factors a noise bylaw considers? And those would be all the changes for the questionnaire for us to get it posted.
I'll second that. Okay, gonna do roll call. Lisa,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Cindy. Cindy, you're muted. Just go like, that's all right.
Aye.
Okay. Peter Goodney, aye. Peter Lapine.
Aye, it's Lapine.
Lapine, sorry. John
Aye.
and Lee.
Aye.
Okay. What do we think about tomorrow's meeting? I understand Lee's not going to be there.
I don't
What are our
think,
thoughts on that?
do we feel, based upon the meeting tonight with public comment, that there's anything that we have not considered yet that would require us to meet tomorrow to discuss, to figure out some details or something?
The one thing I did notice that somebody made a comment of, and I don't know who has a connection, but I've tried a number of times to reach out to the building inspector to maybe get a handle on zoning and building permits and all that jazz. And I've struck out a number of times. I think somebody else tried as well, and they weren't even able to get, they got word through somebody else. Does anybody have a handle on the planning board or the zoning board or, to kind of maybe, I mean, if we should have put in something on their behalf or look at something on their behalf, or is it something that they can handle? Or, you know, it'd be wonderful if the building, when they issue a permit, could say you can't start, or, you know, as part of their process, you know?
John did the legwork here.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, you tried first, I tried. I think where I failed is I was asking very open-ended generic questions, and therefore they came without a lot of detail. So I think if we asked more detailed questions like were brought up tonight and other towns have done, like Sharon had for large developments, the approval of that would include noise restrictions. So I think if we came up with a set of detailed questions to add that were related to the building sort of function, I think we could get some meaningful feedback. Because I think otherwise, you know, they're really not in the business of dealing with this type of issue.
All right. Now, when a subdivision goes in, do the neighbors get notified like that's going to happen? Is there a hearing, or is there any kind of a vehicle that the neighbors can say, hey, you know, can you put in something not to start?
You need planning
at 6:30 in the morning, like.
You need planning board review, as far as I understand. I could be completely wrong, but I thought the process is if you go to do a subdivision or something, you need approval of the planning board. And then once they do major site plan review, that's when all of that process would be taking place. So they would have to have it as part of the planning board charter to approve some level of the planning board charter to approve it. And then I think the building permits are their own piece of what supports the planning board. But I'm also not very familiar with this whole process. I just kind of think it goes something like that.
I know in Westboro, we would often get called, and if we were merely just to document, you know, if the truck was running at 6:30, we would document it, and then it would ultimately go to the building department, and they were the ones that either, you know, find them or pull the permit or whatever. You know, they were the enforcement arm, so to speak. I see, Lisa, you have your hand up.
So I think, well, I'm just looking at my quick notes, and it was Karen who said, you know, look into the planning board about orders of conditions for start and end times. I don't know if that's something that they put in place. I think it's always been the abutters that need to bring that up. And I don't know if abutters truly know that they need to bring that up if they want to have start and end times for the work that's going to be done. And I don't know if we have really large developments anymore in Southborough. I think builders come in and put 2 houses in, or it could be 4 houses in, or 6 houses in. So, you know, no matter what, I mean, if you plunk that down in the middle of a residential area, I mean, I think
we had a whole
butters need to be aware of that. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Lee?
They just put a whole street in about 3 or 4 years ago down the street from me off of Oregon Road.
Yeah.
They put a whole 55 plus community there.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it just depends, but I think it's worth maybe reaching out to the planning board and, you know, finding out, you know, what they usually do, or if they have any guidelines for abutters. And I don't think there's anything in place at this point.
You sound like a volunteer, Lisa.
I'm happy. I'm happy to do that. I'm sure I can find someone on the planning board.
Latrell, is she planning board?
Yeah, Mimi's on there.
Okay.
There's a few people.
It would be great if we reached out at least to show that we, you know, did that, you know,
sure,
that we would consider them. They might say, oh, we've been waiting to hear from you guys, you know, can you put this in? Or maybe say, what we have plans on handling that, or hopefully we just get some communication going. That'd be wonderful. Thank you, Lisa, for that.
Actually, the reason I was raising my hand was it was from Deb Demuria, and the noise template that she had sent us. It does have a lot of great definitions, and I'm wondering if maybe we should start looking at that to maybe start building some of this noise bylaw around definitions, and maybe take a look at that as a group to see what we can use to kind of pull this together.
Yep. Yep.
So I don't know if that might be a good thing to look at tomorrow for an hour.
Can somebody forward that? I can't seem to find that document.
I can forward it for.
We
I can
didn't,
find
we
it for
didn't,
you.
we didn't agree that we were going to meet tomorrow.
Oh,
Right,
I thought we did.
that's- Peter, you have your hand up, Peter.
Yes, I do. Okay, so Deb DeMaria is on the zoning board of appeals, right?
Yeah, I think she is.
She stated
ZBA.
so when she spoke. Okay, and my understanding is a building permit can include restrictions on hours to work, et cetera. The issue is who pulls the permit, and typically it's a contractor who pulls the permit, and that person doesn't want any restrictions on his hours of work. So, you know, although I have a neighbor who proposed to modify their garage. They wanted to make like an indoor basketball court. And we got notification from the town. All of us, you know, maybe 6 or 8 houses surrounding this person's house got notified. And we happened to have been on vacation at the time, so we missed the reply deadline, but they never changed it. So I guess everybody else said they didn't want it changed. So if you're going to make a modification to your property, evidently the town notifies abutters and slightly beyond, perhaps.
I think if that's if you're going to go outside the zoning, I think,
Right,
but I think a
variance.
regular building permit, I don't think requires the abutter notification.
Right, it's only for variance.
Right.
Yeah, that was my experience. I had a neighbor who wanted to put up a garage and it was a little close to their limits or whatever. They asked
Right.
abutters.
Yeah. So how do we feel about meeting tomorrow?
So is it on the town's website that we're meeting tomorrow right now?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
But we can cancel it.
We can, if we don't have we can, it's up to us if we want to show up or not, but
Well, that's true. If you don't have
we
a
put
quorum.
it in,
you
we
can't
didn't
meet.
really know how tonight was going to roll, if we were going to have 100 people making comments and, our workload, it's entirely up to you folks. I know holidays are coming up, people are busy. So we did book it. We do have it on the calendar. I believe it's 7 o'clock earlier than our other meetings.
Yep.
But like you say, Lee said he can't make it.
So Peter?
Yep.
So the only thing I'm uncomfortable with is I don't know the path between today and the deadline, how we meet, how we get to more public hearings, and do all the work in between. So I don't know if we need a meeting tomorrow, but I think we have to start doing a little bit more homework and so forth. And I just don't have that path between now, because January goes quick. And we have, so that's the only thing I want to bring up is, if we had a path of how to get to the finish line, then I don't think we need tomorrow's meeting. But without a path, not that I'm looking for another meeting tomorrow, it's just that's the only thing I'd want to make sure we had the roadmap to discuss, and if that could be meeting more times than once next during January, or so that's the only thing I want to bring up is how do we fill in the gaps?
Well, for discussion purposes, we're kind of right in the exploratory phase. We're gathering information. That's part of the survey, part of these open meeting, open forums. Doing our research. At some point, we're going to have to put that to some sort of funnel that into some sort of a draft or some what areas we're going to say yes or no to. I don't know that I would love to do that right now, but we don't have all that information yet. We may have it, but we don't. We still have to listen to obviously the survey because we want to pay attention to that. Plus, we got 2 more hearings, and I'm open for suggestions on what we want to do at those hearings. Is it just going to be input, or are we going to share what some kind of a framework of a draft, or how do we want to handle those? I'm open for suggestions. So Lee, since
Yeah,
we'll take
so,
you first. I see you have your hand up.
Real quick question. Do we have access to a town attorney or somebody who will actually write the actual text? Because none of us, really have ever written a town bylaw, I don't think.
Well,
I may
we-
take
we
that back.
don't,
Some
but
of
the-
you might have.
We don't, but the selectmen do, and ultimately we're gonna hand this to the selectmen, and then they're gonna polish it one way or the other. So they could, if we, put in something that they didn't think was legal, I'm sure it would get reviewed. So we're just gonna, get the big funnel it down to a manageable amount of and it says in the charter, we have like pros and cons. We could even have option A, option B, the sky's the limit on what we could suggest, and at least that's
Okay,
my,
so
reading
we
it.
don't have to
I didn't,
produce the
I read
finished
this charter
product.
a couple times. It's interesting. You pick up things every time you read it, but, it seemed like they knew what they were doing when they put that together, but go ahead, Tim.
I was just kind of looking at the calendar in January. So if we get the feedback for the results, talk about it at our January 5th meeting, and we focus on that, we can narrow down the list of stuff that we've been dancing around and kind of start to define an outline of what our early feedback says we need. So I think after the 5th, if we could reasonably maybe do a small working group like we did for the survey kind of thing, and then we could boil up an outline for what we think would make sense, and then we could start working towards refining that outline into a more fleshed out version. At least that's the way I see it, where we write a pass of what this bylaw would actually say. Obviously, it's going to be built upon other places that already wrote things and defined things. It's not a starting from 0 point, but it's taking input from our neighbors into this consideration. But I don't know exactly how the timing would go and all that, but that's the way I see a productive path forward, is trying to do something of an outline. We start to agree on an outline, and then we define it better, and then we agree on the better. And what I don't know is, when do the public forums come in? And my next thought about the next public forum should be responding to the outline that we have, where we say, this is what we're thinking about. Do you have major concerns with this, and what are they?
Right. That was part of what I kind of wanted to do at this one, but I mean, I think it's wise what we did, but maybe I jumped the gun, but that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to give the so-called list, which I think we need to polish up, but the so-called list, this is what we thought we should be addressing. What do you guys think? And go through them all. Go ahead, Cindy. I'm gonna put my glasses on.
As a former project manager, in kind of building on what Tim's saying, is I'm a little getting real nervous that we don't really have a timeline for when our major steps need to be accomplished. I'm not even sure that I know, when do we have to have what we're going to funnel to the selectmen in order to meet the town meeting. I just, and yes, certainly, when are we going to fit these 2 other public hearings in? And I just don't feel great that we have a good set of milestones that we have to hit.
It sounds like the second week in February is when we have to be done.
So all the information has to be to the selectmen?
Yeah.
And
I
that
know.
will
That's
give
why I
them
said the
time.
last meeting, we got to get honking.
So Pete, when you say it needs to be there second week in February to the selectmen, is that giving them time to refine what we've given them?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think they do like a placeholder or something, and then, so I mean, they'll have a spot for us, but then they have to polish it up on what they want to do. Is my understanding. So it has to go in front of a selectmen meeting, and we have to figure out how we're going to do that. And I don't know if they're going to refer it to us to present at town meeting, or if they're gonna do it, or I don't know, that's all has to be worked out. Lee, I see you have your hand up.
Yep, so no later than 30 days before the printing deadline. So that I would say that goes along with what you just said, that it's giving making an adequate amount of time in order for them to, get legal review, et cetera. My comment that I originally rose my hand for was, it says conduct a minimum of 3 public forums. And arguably, doing a survey of the public is a public forum. So we may only be obligated to have one more meeting like this. And then I think the idea of using that forum to have a potential back and forth with, hopefully some sort of a proposal about what we're looking for, what we think we heard between the survey and this meeting tonight. Hopefully we'll be able to have something that they can give us comment on before, we have to send it on to the select board.
Okay. Is also in the charge, it says, this, we should provide the selectmen with progress reports, basically. Is everybody comfortable if I let the selectmen know kind of where we are, what we've been doing? I mean, it's basically all in the minutes, but also I will ask if the survey can count as a public forum.
So Stan is still in the audience, so he's been listening in from the select board on our progress. He's already, I know that there was an update at the last select board meeting that Sam gave about where the progress is. I didn't attend that meeting, but I saw the agenda.
Yeah.
I'll allow Sam to talk if he wants to chime in right now. But
and I apologize. I did get an email on that by the time I got it, it was past the deadline. So I apologize, but go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, again, I just gave a brief update that the committee is off to a strong start, had several meetings at that point, and appeared to be moving strongly toward a public forum to start the process. So I think that, any additional inputs that you folks would care to offer, maybe Peter as the chair of the committee could comment on upcoming agenda. We've got, I think, January 4th, I can't remember exactly, is our next meeting. You might send a note to Mark Purple or Lisa Braccio asking to be on that agenda for a brief update of progress. And that would, again, I think be a useful thing to do, but obviously it's something that you folks can choose to do or not at your discretion.
Is everybody okay with me doing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think all the publicity you can get in terms of letting people know this is going on will be very helpful. And if you, by that time, have set a date for a second public forum, that would be a great chance to say.
Sam, would that be okay if I asked the selectmen that can our survey count as one of our forum commitments?
Sure. I'd send a note to Lisa to get that started, and we can certainly discuss it. I haven't thought about that. I don't have an opinion myself at this point, but it'd be good to get again on the discussion agenda for the board.
Yeah. And it says hold a minimum of 3 public forums. That doesn't mean that if we feel we need more input, that we can't hold another one of these like we had tonight. Right. It just means that if we can count the survey, we will have met our minimum charge anyway.
Right. All right. So we're in some direction there. Anyway, thank you, Sam, for staying tuned.
It's riveting, better than Netflix.
Oh yeah, right.
Thanks.
I just a calendar.
We still haven't come to a consensus about tomorrow's meeting.
So this may or may not help. If it's cool, if I share this real quick, and then we can talk about that. We already have the 5th and the 12th on our calendars as meetings that we have on the books.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have anything for the rest of the month, and then we get into February pretty quickly from that point. So what I was just said, I wrote down just to see if it made sense in writing on a calendar. And that was if we created an outline, because the survey closes right around here, we get the results shared out, we create the outline at this meeting. We refine the outline at this meeting with a small working group through the week. We refine that outline of something we think we want, and then we get a public forum to do it, and we would have to post that outline right after that meeting to give people time to read through it through the weekend to be ready for that public forum. Not a lot of time, but it's some time. That gives us the opportunity to have another public forum before our deadline if we find the need for it, without doing them back to back. So I don't know if it's something we want to do, but if we were trying to do this, then I would ask the question, is tomorrow necessary if we think this is a good idea? Otherwise, we're going to 2 a week, and I don't think any of us really want to do 2 a week, nor have the availability to make that happen.
No.
How about Wednesday, the 29th, and not do tomorrow?
There was a reason that we said not in that time frame, and I forget what it was. I think people have.
I can't do the 29th, and I thought someone else couldn't either.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in Florida, just about getting ready to come back from Florida that night.
So just get the Florida background. That's all. You could be in Florida right now. You don't have to be in Westboro.
Sounds like it might be vacation.
That's Southboro.
It is family vacation.
Yeah. You don't, yeah.
Okay,
We
so
got 10 of us.
You need to.
I would like to make a motion that we cancel tomorrow's meeting.
Okay,
Second,
Aye.
let's go through the roll call. One at a time. Lisa,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Peter Goodney, aye. The other Peter,
aye.
John,
Okay.
and Lee.
Aye.
All right, see you at the next meeting, folks. Thank you for your efforts.
Hey, Peter.
Yes,
Still need to vote for adjournment.
Yep.
So one thing I want to make a comment is this committee is, I think, really working very well. I think, promoting the public forum, even the survey, all the things that Lisa and everybody else did with and Cynthia with the transfer station, getting the posters up in town and so forth, my Southborough. I'm just want to bring up that the town asks the citizens to volunteer time to help them. And this is more for Sam because he's here. I'm completely disappointed of how the town does not promote public hearings. And as I said, when you guys asked me to be on this committee, I'm going to be extremely truthful and frank, but if you really want public hearings, we need to have the town step up and help promote these things. I mean, because we want to get agreement from as many people as possible before the town meeting. And I don't know how to structurally change it, but where I'm standing, as an executive at a business, if I put a lot of effort into something and it didn't get promoted from a marketing point of view, you're not getting the value for feedback. I mean, I think it was great feedback, the few people we got, but I had hoped we would get a lot more. So I'm highlighting that because during the next public forums, I want to address this fundamental flaw that this town has.
okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think the town should be providing some support to a lot of these committees. I mean, the job of being a scribe, that could be done by a town employee. That free up some, I know nobody wants to do it. I know I've done it in committees. It's a tough job. And that could be, I remember committees before, 15 years ago, there wasn't a town employee assigned to the committee that did that job. I don't know how that, maybe we just didn't rank high enough, but anyways, that is something I would like to see, but that's another day. So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Peter seconds. I'll go down the list again. Lisa,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Peter Goodney, aye. The other Peter,
Aye.
John,
Aye, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and enjoy the holidays.
and last but not least, Lee.
Aye, goodbye.
Aye and goodbye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Happy
night.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
holidays,
One more
everyone.
thing I wanted to say. I know we're adjourned, but as a housekeeping, somebody on the screen did not send in their receipt for the conflict of interest. I'm not going to name any names.
That was me.
Didn't we
I
just
got-
do that though?
I got your email.
All right, I just want to make sure. All you gotta do is reply that you got it. You don't have to print it out and sign it and all that.
Right.
shit.
No, I
Just re-
printed out.
Okay, well, you don't have to scan it and all that. You can just reply
Just
to the email I
reply.
received it.
Okay.
Thanks, folks.
Good night.
Yeah,
Right.
One